Hello everyone, welcome to Sunday Catch Up. My name's Adam Holmes. I'm a songwriter from Edinburgh in Scotland, and over the last 13 years I've been creating albums. I've been lucky enough to play on the TV, play on the radio, win awards for my albums. I've been lucky enough to build two businesses, one as a songwriter, performing and do my own songs, and another as a coach, coaching other people on their songs, helping them with their songwriting. I've built nearly 500,000 followers, and every Sunday I take a little bit of time to chat about something that I'm struggling with and overcoming and dealing with in my journey, and hopefully it is also of value to you. I tell you this not to impress you, but just to let you know what I've done so you can decide whether you think that this short episode will be worth some of your time and attention. It's my genuine hope that these lessons help you in your creative practice, help you in your life. And this week it's been Christmas, so I was up north with my girlfriend's family. We had a real nice time hanging out there. I'm back down in Edinburgh now, and I'm finishing up a record. This week I'm in the last stages of an album I'm making, and it's sounding amazing. I'm really excited about sharing it. It's a lot of work. It's a big push right now to get to the end of the process of that record being done. I have also been hanging out with my daughter. I'm taking her out to her mum's today. Generally when she goes to her mum's, I get a little bit of space and time to really go in deep with my work. Also to get back into my boxing training. I'm looking forward to that this week. I feel like I have some excess energy that I need to get rid of, so I'm excited for that as well. This week on the Sunday Catch Up, I want to talk about how you can train your own wild horse. What I believe is all of us have a wild horse inside of us, and I believe it's our job to tame and work with that wild horse enough to be able to offer our gifts to the world. I took this concept from the comedian Jerry Seinfeld, who said, each of us has a wild horse in us, and our talent is a wild horse, and if we don't learn how to ride it, it will kill us. And I just loved this concept. I loved this idea, and it really rung true for me, because when I think back to my childhood, when I think back to my adolescence and my early adulthood, what I recognize within myself is a wild energy which needed to be channeled. And for me, the way I've channeled that has always been creativity. So in my childhood, I grew up one of 8 in a 2-bed flat to a single mum who had undiagnosed ADHD and CPTSD. And so bless her, she was doing her best with that hand that she'd been dealt. And that created a lot of chaos. It created a lot of instability within my family home, which fed into my wild horse looking for some kind of stability and not being able to necessarily find it there. And I carried that into my adolescence. I left home when I was 15, and I began working as a builder on building sites, and that actually kind of gave me a bit of structure. It kind of tamed my wild horse to some extent, but I knew inside of me that I had this desire to create music, and my early start into creating music was being a rapper. Now, as you probably know, the way that rappers hang out and spend time together is often, or in my case certainly, was based around unsavory activities. So whilst on some levels my wild horse was getting tamed, I also experienced very much a lot of chaos and a lot of environments which were not conducive to my wild horse feeling safe, feeling contained. In my adulthood, in my early 20s, I became a full-time musician, left the building site, and I began to work in bands. And again, a lot of those environments are very much conducive to chaotic sort of unsavory behavior. So I did find myself, again, maybe not in the best environments, and in some ways was doing the right thing. I was channeling my energy. I was getting it into some positive places. But also I didn't really know how to live with that part of myself. And now as a man of 34, I've experienced a lot more. I'm a parent. And so I've had to learn how to really work with myself to create a life that really works for me. The life I've created now that works so well for me is based a lot less on doing a lot of concerts and being away a lot and touring and living that wild carnival life of being a touring musician. And it's much more based now around working online, being an online performer, being an online presence, finding my audience online, building my audience online. And that's worked really well for me. Also doing village halls closer to home, that's worked really well for me too. Not being in the kind of pulsating throng of the music industry and all of the inevitable power plays that come with being inside of that industry. It's a very volatile industry. My point is, finding my own version of success has been crucial to me training my own wild horse. And I've got 5 questions for you today that can help you think about how you can train your wild horse better. And to be clear, when I say wild horse, to some extent what I mean is you're the teenage part of you. The teenage part of you, but also that part of you is the most talented and the most colourful in terms of creative output. So I think the interesting thing about the concept of the wild horse to me is, yes, it is a thing which needs tamed, it's a thing which needs contained, but also it's probably your source of all of your most creative ideas. I often say to people when I'm coaching them on songwriting, a well-balanced, well-thought-out, well-structured, reasonable, rational version of a thought process is never what makes a good song. Always the songs you hear on the radio, which people love and connect to, are the wild horse running free, is the part of yourself which is not contained, which is not well thought out and reasonable. It's the part of you often which is just letting your feelings run, letting your emotions run. Now, there are good places to put this kind of energy in life. There's good places to open the gates and let your wild horse have a crazy run about, and there's bad places. And I've got 5 questions for you which I believe can help you to find the right places for your wild horse to be. The first question is, do you know the difference between the wants of your wild horse and the needs of your wild horse? So, to give an example, this week I received a critical comment on one of my videos, and I decided to post that critical comment and post the follower count of the person who posted it and post my follower count as an observation on how often I receive unsolicited advice from people who are not experts in that particular field. Now, was that a great idea? Turns out, no. Turns out it wasn't a great idea. And the reason why it wasn't a great idea is because I let my wild horse get what it wanted, right? And what your wild horse wants is chaos. That's what your wild horse wants. If you think about a horse inside of a paddock just running around bashing into stuff, right? All it wants is movement, is chaos. What it needs is structure. What it needs is to have movement, but to have it in a structured way. So for example, my wild horse in that moment could have paused, or my wild horse couldn't have, but me as a trainer of my own wild horse, I could have paused. I could have thought, what does this wild horse need right now? It needs structure, right? So maybe in that example, I could have made a point generally about unsolicited advice, value, art, the life of an artist, right? And I could have kind of done that in a structured way, right? And that would have been me giving my wild horse an opportunity to express itself, but doing it in a way which was structured. But I didn't. I just leaned into chaos. And of course, chaos brings more chaos. And so, somewhat unsurprisingly, I received a great deal more comments, unsolicited comments. Or maybe at that point solicited because, I'd opened the gates or not opened the gates of the paddock and just let the horse just run round. And I spent a couple days running around in the paddock, bashing off everything. So, question 1, do you know the difference between what your wild horse wants and needs? Number 2, are you gentle with your wild horse? I like to think about a trainer with a horse which is not yet trained, and the way you train a horse is definitely not, hey, come here, stand there, do that, they feed off that and they're just going to go crazy. So there's a saying which they used to say in Quaker church when I was a kid, which was gentle and firm. Gentle and firm. That's the kind of energy you want to bring to that part of yourself, which is desperate for chaos and needs structure. You want to bring a gentle energy and a firm energy. You want to be calm. You want to think about that horse and think, that horse is feeding off your energy. And you have an opportunity to separate yourself out from the wild horse and look at it and think, how can I be gentle? How can I be calm? How can I give this wild presence what it needs right now? It needs structure. It doesn't need more chaos. It's got chaos covered. Number 3, do you know your top 3? Do you know your top 3 go-tos for your wild horse that work for your wild horse every single time? I know, for example, mine are family, gym, and work. Family, gym, and work. I can always do those 3, and they can always help my wild horse to feel it has structure, feel it is contained. Now, are they always exactly what I want to do? Definitely not. Definitely not. My wild horse wants to just sack it all off, eliminate structure, not go to the gym, just go to the cinema, just go and see some random mate that turns up on a Tuesday. Eat whatever I want, sack off the gym, don't go. But I know for sure, 1,000,000% that gym, family, and work are never going to ruin my life, right? Those 3 things are never going to create problems in my life. Now, going back to my own story, right? As a child, as an adolescent, and in my early adulthood, I wasn't raised with an example of stability, structure, someone who was really working with their wild horse to tame it and to give it what it needed. I didn't see that. I didn't see that example. I saw it in my dad a little bit, but my dad was about his own business. He was doing his own thing. He wasn't inside the family giving us that sense of structure. My mum was left to do all that work, and she was doing it with, as I mentioned, a very tricky hand, right, that she'd been dealt. So, as an adult, I have had to develop that awareness of what structure I need, because here's the thing. If you go on the internet, or if you look at any kind of fame, this is another thing I've been thinking about this week, right? We expect our famous people to not have a wild horse, right? And it's crazy. That one of the most dangerous beliefs in life is that there's anyone in the world who doesn't have that part of themselves. And if you try and act like you don't have that part to yourself. That's a very dangerous thing to do, because of course you do. And as soon as you act like you don't and act like you're above it, then you put yourself in all kinds of blind spots where you could create really difficult situations for yourself. So you have to admit that that's a part of you to be able to work with it. And the fourth question I want to ask you in connection to your wild horse and training your wild horse, and this definitely ties in, is do you understand your environment? So if you took your wild horse on a walk and it saw a piece of rope on the ground, it might think there's a snake and freak out and go crazy, right? If it doesn't understand its environment, if you haven't trained it to understand its environment. So in your life, in my life, what's going to give you that training and give you that experience is some kind of therapeutic or coaching practice that's going to help you see what your environment is. Because your wild horse doesn't know the difference between a snake or a piece of rope. I don't. My wild horse didn't know the difference when everything kicked off on social media between my real friends, my real followers, my true fans, and just people on the internet. And we're not designed to be able to be visible in front of so many people. So it's important in that situation that I understand my environment. The way I do is through therapy. I know what my real life is because of therapy. I know what real threats are because of therapy. So many of us are in relationships and we're going, this person has done this person's done that. And we are that wild horse looking at all these ropes on the ground and thinking they're snakes. You have to understand your environment. You have to understand it's never you versus the world. It's you and your wild horse, and it's not you versus your wild horse, but it's you and your wild horse. That's the only relationship that you need to learn how to navigate. That's the only thing that you need to learn how to navigate. You don't need to know how to control other people. You don't need to know how to deal with their wild horse. You only need one sane person in a room to create sanity, right? You are not a trainer of everyone else's wild horses. That is a ridiculous job to give yourself. And so many people, so many of us go into the world and we look around and we think, let me train that horse, let me train that horse, let me train that horse, let me train that horse. And everyone else, and your horse is like headbutting a wall or whatever, and you're trying to fix everyone else. No, your job is to look at your horse. What does your horse want? Chaos. What does your horse need? Structure. Give it that. Understand your environment. Use therapy. Use coaching. Hire me as a coach. I'm starting coaching inside the club from January. We all need coaching. We all need understanding and therapy. There's things that you can't see that someone else can see. I could not live the life I live without coaching, without therapy. There's no way. The last question I want to leave you with is, who is leading you? And what I mean by that is, when you think about an event in your life, now for me on a personal level, the event a couple of days ago where I posted on socials and it all went crazy, right, is a good example, so I'll use that. I posted, a lot of people also commented, everything got very chaotic and charged. And in those moments, it's important to think, who is leading you? Let me give an example. A friend of mine, Iona Fife, who is a singer and also a public figure with a large following, with a name and a brand, and who does public performances and who's putting himself out there, she said to me, this is not good, basically. This isn't coming across well. And I thought, okay. I had got myself a little bit lost, right? And I got in there with my wild horse, and there was other wild horses, and we're all just ramming heads, right? Now, and just to make a point, Iona said, I've made many missteps in my 26 years. So that was her coming in from a position of understanding, from a position of awareness, from a position of holding the two poles, right? Holding the two opposites. Her wild horse and her trained horse came into that situation. And I thought, okay, I am going to let this moment lead me. I'm going to let a trained horse lead me in this moment. You only need one sane person in a room to create sanity. So what I want to ask you is, who is leading you? Who are you listening to? Which people around you are in the position you want to be in your family, in your government, on social media, in your work environment, whatever? Who's leading you? And is it a force which wants chaos, or is it a force which wants and creates structure? So I sit before you today, this Sunday, as both. I have a wild horse in me, but I also have experience in training my wild horse. Now, the public arena is one where you're going to get a lot of that opportunity. I'm learning in public. And it's my belief that the meaning of life is to offer my gift to the world, and to do that visibly. And if I don't put myself out there, I'm never going to get the opportunity to do that. So that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm here doing. If you want to join my club, we would love to have you in there. There's 550 of us inside of there. And every week I coach like this. I'm also putting behind the scenes content. There's a WhatsApp group. There's documentaries. There's films. Everything that you need to focus on living a creative life, focus on training your wild horse, is inside of the club. And it's only $1.50 a month to join. There's 550 of us in there. There are people who are paying a tenner, 50. Some people pay 100. People join at $1.50. And most people upgrade their memberships because they realize that they're getting a ton of value out of being inside the club. But the beautiful thing about the club is, no matter what you pay, everyone gets the same. So you could be in there forever and just pay $1.50 a month and get access to everything and make your life more interesting, more exciting, more creative, more fulfilling. If that sounds good, we'd love to have you in the club. Just click the link in the top comment. And appreciate you guys. Have a fantastic day. Have a great Sunday. I'm off to the gym. Peace out.